way we can identify CSC members from agency and public members. Okay, so we are here for meeting number 25. It's the first of the year. So again, grateful that you've joined us back for the meetings in 2023. Just reintroducing myself, I realized I didn't, in case anyone that's new here or hasn't been here when I'm facilitating. My name is Daniela Flores. I'm part of the Hard-Earned Company Community Research Facilitation Team, and I'll be facilitating along with my colleagues, Liz Lev and Amy Ramos. And today we're here to do some follow-up from the previous meeting, and we'll tell you in a second a little bit more of that. But before we get started, we'd like to always share some of the housekeeping items, including a reminder of when we're meeting, just some things that help meetings go smoother. We'll just ask everyone that's joining us to remain on mute unless you're gonna speak or plan to speak. If you're joining us just on the phone line, to mute and unmute, you press *6. And if you would like to raise your hand, if you would like to ask a question, you can use the raise hand feature. And if you're calling in to raise your hand from the phone line, you press *9. And I just want to remind everyone, I think you know this, but residents that are part of the stipend program are encouraged are to stay at least 75% of the meeting in order to be eligible for the stipend. So we ask that you stay at least 90 minutes to ensure that you are able to receive that check. We, as you have developed some of these guiding framework for your discussion, I'll just kind of remind folks, and we're seeing these in English and Spanish, but you all have committed yourselves to helping one another to achieve the meeting goals by creating space for everyone to participate with respect, and as much as possible staying on time and on the topic, and really working together to not attack individuals, but really honoring every person, and really focusing on the issues at hand rather than people, and seeking common ground when possible. So as I mentioned, we have quite a few things to do today. We're gonna, as soon as we finish our welcoming remarks, we're gonna give you an update on the action item tracker. We're also going to hear from various presenters today around the what we heard, what everyone heard from you all at the previous meeting, but also some other presentations about the next steps. You will have most of the time in our meeting, it will be focused on that item, but we also have 20 minutes reserved for a discussion around the CSC membership and leadership. So we'll we have a presentation for that as well, and we'll be able to get your feedback there as well. As usual, we have some standing updates to hear from the committees and agencies. And then, of course, we'll announce the upcoming meetings and reserve a moment for public comment at the end. All right, with that, I'm excited to kick it off to Jessica from the Air District for welcoming remarks.
Thank you, Daniela. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Olson. I'm the Director of Resources at the Air District. I think my finger hit something. But I am just so grateful to see you all here. Happy New Year. I want to thank all of you who came to our first ever agenda setting meeting, which is actually how we arrived at the agenda for tonight's meeting. Just as a reminder for all of you, and we'll remind you at the end, a week from these regular CSC meetings, we will make sure that folks who are interested have an ability to meet with the district, debrief about the meeting, and then set the agenda. So that's what we did. That's how we arrived at tonight's meeting. And we're so grateful for the collaborative effort with all of the different agency partners we have tonight. So I'm just really excited to kick off the new year with you all. And I'll go ahead and pass to Bianca if you have anything to say, Bianca, as our co-lead.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I can't thank enough everybody that's in here wanting to make some changes in their community. I know this meeting in general. Sorry, we're going to be talking about the priority that residents have been inputting, and especially when we did it in person. I appreciate every single one of you that have come out and participating in all this event. And if anything, let me know if any help. I'm here as a co-lead, but also as a representation of what we need to do in our community. I'm sorry, I'm just got a cough.
Thank you so much, Bianca and Jessica, for those remarks and carrying the spirit from our last meeting into this one, and through the agenda setting that was instrumental for today. So with that, I believe we're ready to go into our next item, and would love to welcome whether it's Eric or anyone else from the Air District team to walk us through the action items. We haven't seen this document in a while, at least in terms of because we were in person. So Eric, take it away, and CSC members, please do feel free to ask any questions about what you see there. And if there's anything you have questions around, we'll have some Q&A time after.
Thank you, Daniela. Yes, let me go ahead and share my screen with you all. Can everybody see my screen? All right, let me zoom in a little bit more as well. And all of our action items are complete, and don't be alarmed if you see the this meeting dates and this meeting number, just because, like Daniela said, we haven't had a regular CSC meeting in a little while. We had our last in-person in December. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. Our first action item is the Air District will ensure the SERP tracker is finalized to reflect the priorities identified by the CSC. So this action item is complete. The district has finalized and posted the SERP tracker. So you all could follow this link. It is in Spanish as well. And we're able to, I'll go ahead and click on it. As you could see, this is our January 2023 Arvin and Lamont SERP tracker. So I'll go ahead and go back. I can go back. Here, let me stop sharing my screen because my link went away. Or actually, excuse me. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All righty. Our next action item is the Air District will use feedback shared about outreach and education to develop its next iteration of events. The district received feedback at the in-person meeting for the future Arvin and Lamont education and events. Follow the link below to view the in-person meeting notes. And this link below is in English and Spanish as well. So I'll go ahead and click on that. And there's more to come on this link as well for some of the notes that we all took from you all in the in-person meeting. So this is the SERP measure, incentives and residential benefits. This is live notes, so it is translated right at the bottom here in red for Spanish speakers. Okay. Alrighty. Our third action item is at the in-person CSC meeting in December. There will be more opportunities for CSC members to provide feedback on locations of air monitors. So again, we took all of your feedback and we put it in this Jamboard, which has been posted to our website. And then I'll go ahead and click on it. So as you can see, it's kind of hard to see the sticky notes. So we enlarged them right here and put them individually. You all had some great feedback, and we're going to share this with you all. And again, this is posted on the summary for the in-person December meeting. Let me jump back here. Alrighty, lastly, the Air District will add Grow Academy to potential list of locations where air monitors will be placed. The Air District has taken note of Grow Academy and other potential air monitoring locations in Arvin and Lamont, and it's the same Jamboard that we used for the in-person meeting for this information. Alrighty, and I'll go ahead and pass it back to Harder. I'll stop sharing my screen to accommodate for any questions. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. And I see that if you're looking to view the tracker, you want to take a closer look, you can see the chat has those links. They also included links to the notes directly in the chat. So be sure to look at those links if you would like to. Does anyone have any questions for Eric or comments regarding the tracker?
I do. I don't know if I put my hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Bianca.
Sorry, I have a kid in the background, but I was wondering if you could email it to us, if people that have the email, because it would be easier for us to access it. If we go back and maybe on the subject note, just put the tracker so we could input if we have any comments.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you both. I don't see any other comments, but just spending one more minute here, a few seconds to see if anyone else has questions or comments about the tracker. All right, great. Well, thank you, Eric, so much for that. At this point, we're ready to transition into our topic center stage on the high priorities measure. Jessica, if you would like to kick us off with some opening remarks and really set us up for learning more about what we learned or what we heard from people in December. And then I know we have various agencies represented here to provide some additional information regarding the next steps.
Absolutely. Thank you all. And definitely, I appreciate that we just went over the action items tracker because it really does move us forward, which is just the next iteration and next steps, building on the last two meetings really that we've had, getting feedback from all of you on what your priorities are for SERP implementation. And what exact feedback do you have? How can we move those priorities forward? So the link that that Eric just shared, we also have a few other tools that we've developed to collect all of the information we heard from you at that in-person meeting. So I'll just say a couple of things before I move forward. One is that was just the start, right, of getting input. We know that was not the only opportunity. Two, we know that not everyone on this call was there. So what we're going to do is we'll share with you what we've heard so far. We're going to hear feedback from the different agencies that are involved. And in particular, we're talking about road paving and sidewalks today, but we will in the future talk about the trees and urban greening at a different date. But all of that said, as you're reading through it and you say, well, I wasn't there or I have more comments, we're going to follow up not only with an email, but with some tools like hard copy tools for folks to continue to take notes and provide feedback. That was some of the feedback we got during the agenda setting meeting. So I just want you all to think about that as we're reviewing this today and more things occur to you. We'd love to hear that feedback, whether it's right now or at a future date when we provide an email and an opportunity or a hard copy packet. So that's my caveat. What I'm going to do is I am going to start off by just thanking the City of Arvin, the Kern County Public Works Department, and Caltrans. If you recall, if you were at our meeting in person, all three of them were there and had maps for us to all map out where we felt that we best could use funding in the SERP to do sidewalk, bike path, or road improvement projects. And the reason it was so useful to have the folks there is because these types of projects, even if we as a community feel like they need to happen, one of the biggest barriers is knowing who owns that property or what sort of the bureaucratic barriers are to getting that work done. So we've brought all three of those agencies here today, and I'm just going through my list because I think first up is going to be Christine. Is Christine here? I don't see. You're probably here and I just don't see you. Does anyone?
I'll see Christine.
All right. No worries. So maybe ahead of Christine, Eric, can we just, we'll touch base with her right now and see if we can get her here, because she's very excited. She has a presentation. I'll go ahead and drop it in the chat when she does present, to talk about some projects that she wants to do based on your input and your priorities, and based on what the city is able to do. The second person that we have, or second group we have with us today, is Kern County Public Works, and that's going to mostly touch the like Lamont, Weed Patch, Fuller Acres area. And then the third group is Caltrans, who those of you who are at the meeting, even though some of the projects that you are all interested in are maybe already happening, they have a lot of great funding that they want to allocate to the area. They also had some cool updates on a really important project that they wanted to share with you tonight as well. So I'm going to start with the tool, the quick version of the tool that we developed, and then I'm going to pass it over to our agency partners. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to actually drop the link in the chat, and I'm going to share with you a couple of cool things about this tool. The link is in the chat right now, and I'm going to share my screen. This tool, you might recognize it. It's very similar to what we've done in the past to map out monitoring projects or sources of concern. It is in English, and you can just toggle over here and also have it in Spanish or any other language that you might need in order to understand and interpret, or just better read all of the information. And that includes any of the notes. So what our team did is took all of those sticky notes that you all provided during the meeting, if you were there, and added, if there were dots that folks added, if you recall, we use little colored dots. Here, I'll give you an example of what those looked like. We had maps, and you provided dots on these maps. I don't know if folks can see that, but along specific roads, you either put a green dot if you felt like trees or urban greening made sense, or a yellow dot with some notes about maybe some infrastructure, meaning a bike path or a curb or a gutter. So what we did is we took that and we sort of summarized it in this map. And anytime you click on one of these, you can see that 3 CSC members indicated that they felt like they needed vegetative barriers along 4th Street. And same thing here, you can see that 3 CSC members noted that they thought that similarly 4th Street required some pavement or improvements. So that's all that we've done, is just compile all of the notes you had, and we felt like taking this to the city and the county would better able them to tell us what the next steps would be, because this is your sort of #1 priority project, is getting these done. So I'll pause here. I'll see if the city's not here. Maybe we can go to the county to sort of give us an update. And in the meantime, if the county or any one of you wants us to open the map and kind of share some of the feedback as we talk through this, we're happy to do it. Really what today is, oh, I see Christine. Sorry, hi, Christine. We'll go to the city first. But really what today is Christine, for example, is going to start off kind of indicating that a particular project that got some support from all of you and has support from the city, so we think is like ready to go, and we just kind of want to talk about next steps with that particular project. So without further ado, Christine, Eric is going to share the slides for you, and you want to just say next if that works for you.
That works great. And hi, everybody. Good to see you. My apologies for jumping in late. I got preoccupied with something and just got busy. So go ahead. So I am super excited to share this project with the CSC team. First of all, I can tell you that the city has been working with collaborative groups, Kern Community College District, the Dolores Huerta Foundation. We've reached out to the Cesar Chavez Foundation and the San Joaquin communities to gain support for this project. And this is the first ever opportunity to provide affordable housing and as well as transportation options that reduce vehicle miles traveled and reduce air pollution, which we all know is an issue for Arvin. I believe this project is going to benefit both Arvin and Lamont and the neighboring communities, because the affordable housing will only be available to low income and low and moderate income. So you will only be able to have access to this housing if you're in that category. And we have a significant portion of people in Arvin and Lamont who are low income and do need housing and support. In fact, it's the #1 comment I see on Facebook. Is there any place available for rent? So hopefully this project will meet all of the requirements and then some. So we are collaborating with Bakersfield College, Kern Community College District, to bring a master plan that includes numerous amenities to the city of Arvin. The project is located along 4th Street and Walnut, which was identified in the CSC as a location for both planting trees and for potential for sidewalk, curb, gutter, and things of that nature. So Arvin's project will establish a half-mile bike lanes along 4th Street. It will provide, our initial phase 1 will provide 50 units of affordable housing for low-income housing. And we have plans, hopefully, for a phase 2, which will bring another 50 units of affordable housing. But I really see this proposal as a tie-in to the steering committee, as a tie-in to the goals of CARB, and as a tie-in to increasing active transportation. So this whole area was already identified at our last CSC meeting. And we've been working with our collaborative groups to get funding. And we have an initial funding of $5.6 million from REAP 2.0 to establish the affordable housing. So we have first money in, which is great. But in master planning the community, we want to make sure that the Arvin and Lamont residents have access to services, which has been really lacking in Arvin. So over here, this area is the first phase 1 of 50 units of affordable housing. The city is contributing for the design of 4th Street. And we are issuing a task order right now for that design. We have an existing urban greening grant in a park area, and that's that triangle that you see here coming up along Walnut. And then directly across from that, on the south side of 4th Street, we have investors and developers who are interested in bringing in a supermarket, a credit union, a bank, a Starbucks, and Walnut Street, which will lead up to Bakersfield College, which is currently under construction, which is another great opportunity for people to be able to go to college right here in Arvin. And that applies to both Lamont and Arvin residents and the local neighborhoods. Already has bike lanes going up 4th Street. So our proposal is to build out 4th Street, add bike lanes, apply an urban greening grant that we've already obtained to provide a dual purpose bike lane along 4th Street, along with a park area and more. Next slide, please. So here's sort of a zoomed in plan where you see the 50 units of affordable housing, a new grocery store that's in contract with State Foods. This box that has green around it is for solar carport and EV charging. And I think that really works well with our existing AB 617 CERT, because our CERT is going to offer Arvin and Lamont residents a voucher of up to $20,000 for the purchase of an electric car. So this is a really well planned out master plan to provide community electric charging. To the right of that green box is our urban greening grant, which is a pedestrian and bike path that will go attached to 4th Street and Walnut Drive. And then south of that is the plan for the supermarkets, the Starbucks, and some retail establishments, which will also be offering jobs to our community. And we call this the Arvin Town Center Master Plan. Next slide, please. This is really more than just an affordable housing project, because we have plans for a second installation of 50 units of affordable housing. So the goal is to provide 100 units. We have at lot number 4, we're going to have solar covered community parking lot where we'll be offering van pooling and EV charging. We're going to put in a new transit station along 4th Street so that Arvin Transit can come in with our electric buses and provide low emissions transit or no emissions transit. We are also going to put in designated bike and walking paths along 4th Street with trees. So all of these things really meet the goals and the desires of AB 617. And for phase 1, 50 units of affordable housing. Next slide, please. So in the orange triangle there, that's the urban greening grant. The blue square is where we have proposed solar carport and EV charging. And then the green area just above 4th Street is our first proposed affordable housing project. The little green box on the south side of 4th Street will indicate where we will have a transit stop with zero emissions buses. Next slide, please. And we intend to have all of these affordable housing units to be high energy efficiency. So they will have solar carports, solar roof ports, energy efficient LED lighting, EV charging infrastructure for the residents directly, as well as public charging for whoever is visiting this area, and battery backup for power outages. In addition, there is a planned community center to support the residents for meetings and gatherings. And we have a planned child care service center, which we hope to develop, where people can go from the affordable housing, walk up to the child care, drop their childs off, walk straight up to Bakersfield College and never have to get in a car. And hopefully if they do, it's going to be an electric one. Next slide, please. So here's just some photographs of the energy efficient appliances that will be available at the affordable housing complex. And next slide, please. Our planned solar charge for ports and charging stations at the affordable housing location as well. Next slide, please. The goal is for a zero emissions transportation hub where we will have the retail itself, will have solar panels on it. We will expand transit to provide a transit stop for zero emissions buses and to provide covered solar parking areas where we will be taking advantage of all the sun we get here in Arvin to power this whole system. Next slide, please. This is just an example of solar carport setup in the shopping center and battery backup chargers. So what we hope to do is work with our local community businesses as well, such as the farmers, where we perhaps put together a carpool program where people can pick up in this transportation hub and then assist getting our farm workers and our people who need to go to work there through a carpool. In addition, you probably know that Arvin, the Tajon Outlets has a planned casino coming up in about I believe they plan on building that out within 18 months. And so we want to be able to provide transportation and preferably zero emissions transportation because of our air quality issues in Arvin and Lamont. Next slide, please. So we've also calculated the savings for vehicle miles traveled through using van pool. So going from the transportation hub to some of the farm labor fields and food processing facilities, would be the round trip distance would be 26 miles, and we could save that using the carpooling in the transportation hub. The distance to the Hard Rock Casino and our transportation hub is 38 miles. So when you calculate all of those distances, this project alone, just roughly on preliminary numbers, has the ability to reduce 76,680 miles annually. And that's just based on the carpooling scenario. It doesn't include all the savings we would get through employing net zero emissions buses and calculating the number of savings we would get through electric vehicles and people using these charging stations. Next slide, please. But it goes beyond that because we're working with Kern Community College District to provide workforce development. So Kern Community College has signed on as our partner and our fiscal agent, which frankly, this is the only way this could happen because we don't have Arvin's, fairly poor city. So Kern Community College has agreed to be our fiscal agent. So they will be assisting with the financial aspects of the grant applications that we currently have already submitted and more to come. And Kern Community College also has grant funding to offer workforce development training, solar installation training, entrepreneurship training, EV charging stations. So if you're interested in learning how to install an EV charging station, they are offering these workforce development courses, and many of them are no charge because they are grant funded. In addition, we hope to launch some microgrid basic training. So we are going to essentially all the solar in this area is going to be considered a microgrid. So we may even use this area as a training opportunity for students who are interested in breaking into this field. So again, this is a super highly transformative project. It has a ton of benefits for the Arvin residents. We really wanted to come up with something that had so many benefits for our community because we haven't had opportunities for new retail, new jobs, workforce training, charging stations. And I will answer questions at the end of the slide. Next slide, please. This is the final slide. And so far, our partners who have signed on are Kern Community College District, obviously the city of Arvin, San Joaquin Sustainable Communities, the Dolores Huerta Foundation, and we have Arvin Walnut Properties, who's the developer on the retail. And with that, we'll go ahead and take some questions. Jessica, you want to go ahead and ask your question, and then I'll take Mario?
Perfect. Yes, actually, and Eric, can you stop sharing? Because I was going to share something in my question. So I think what you just shared is super exciting. I know you had some of this to share during the in-person meeting, but there was a lot happening. And so I think some people maybe heard you talk about it. So I'm glad we had this opportunity. One of the questions I had, just to center it on the 617 funding, is everything that you just talked about is a big project with lots of different funding partners. Specifically, when we're talking about SERP and how it relates to the SERP, you are just talking about the paving piece, correct? When it comes to SERP funding.
Yes, just to clarify.
Perfect. And the reason I asked that is I'm going to share my screen because it wasn't obvious to me the first time, and you are all familiar with Arvin, so maybe you all already knew this. On Google Maps, if you don't look on the satellite view, it looks like 4th Street exists. But 4th Street, when you zoom in, and stop me if I'm wrong, Christine, this is the area you're talking about, and this is 4th Street. There is not actually a street here, it's just dirt.
That is correct.
Okay, so this would be paving this in addition to all the great things you just talked about with the charging and the urban greening, but this is the piece that the district SERP funding would pay for.
That is correct. And I'm so excited about this project, I might have gotten ahead of myself. But the actual affordable housing component of this project, along the affordable housing project, the transformative elements, the charging stations, the solar carports, all of this combined, our application was just under $30 million. We already have $5.6 million, and now we're going for another chunk that we spent our Christmas and New Year's vacation working and applying for a grant. So we're hoping that that will get funded. And beyond that, we have plans to apply for TCC, REAP 2.0, all of that. So it's a process, but what we're asking for specifically that's SERP related is the funding for the streets and a portion of the sidewalk and any additional trees or bike lanes that we would like to add that we don't already have funding for. So to clarify, I do have an urban greening grant that will pay for some of for the park amenities and part of the bike path. But let's say the community wanted to add additional bike lanes on the south side, that may be something that we could fund using the SERP.
Awesome. And then I just have one thing just to help clarify for the community is that we have funding for about 6 projects total. This would take up funding for about 1 project. So it's not like, oh, this is our 1 project across the SERP. This is one of potentially a total of 6 across the entire boundary. And that really depends on the cost of each project, but this would be about what we allocated per project in your SERP when you asked for $12 million. So probably about 1.5 to 2 million per project is what you all kind of looked at when we participatory budgeted way back in the day. So I also wanted to clarify, this is just the one that the city was like ready to go and it had support during the meeting. All right, I'll pause and please, take the other questions. Thank you.
Okay, so I think Mario was next, and then after that, CRPE, EJ.
Yeah, I'm just a little curious on the benefits of Arvin of this project. What I'm trying to figure out, does the revenue of the charging station, does it goes to the public to help out other projects they want to do, or who stays with the revenue, what they get off of these stations, electrical stations?
So contrary to popular belief, the charging stations, I have specifically asked the collaborative to set the charging stations at a rate that's basically the cover of the cost of electricity, because Arvin is disadvantaged. So the city does have some charging experience. We have 10 public charging stations right now behind the Veterans Hall. So I've asked them to keep those rates low, and the generation of power, for the most part, as I understand it, would be going to the affordable housing. So it would help offset the low income residents in terms of how much energy they use. And from there, I think the retail, which is separate, it's not part of the city's project, but it is a separate development, that they have plans to provide solar charging on the retail side as well, which, as far as I know, would be aggregated to some of the businesses. Okay, next we have CRPE. Oh,
yeah, but
sorry.
wait up, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. I'm just trying to figure out doing this type of project, if it was to help out the citizens in Lamont, Arvin, to do other projects, like say if they needed a little bit more money to do, sidewalks or bike path or whatever you guys wanted to do, over there in Arvin. I'm just trying to wonder if some of that money from the charging station will go to the public.
Well,
That's-
as far as I know, that the funding for the charging, the energy that's going from the charging station is going to help support the affordable housing. So it will benefit disadvantaged residents who are low income, who are living in the housing. We don't intend to make profit on the actual charging stations. They're going to be a public benefit for public use.
And okay, well, good luck, Arvin.
She's letting kids to
Thank you, Maria. Next, we'll have CRPE. CRPE. Okay, well, we'll wait on CRPE.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Gustavo Aguirre. I'm sorry, I'm traveling. I think a few comments. I think the project is great, but my concern is in terms of equity throughout the city of Arvin. Normally, in my experience working with communities, the old neighborhoods are always forgotten in terms of reinvesting, reshaping those neighborhoods, and how it will balance, throughout the community if the decision is made to use some of the funds from 617 for this new project. Normally, new projects, new areas, new development have different ways of funding, like from fees, from new construction, from business coming in, low-income housing, having a lot of opportunities to that may come together with those projects, to support those kind of projects. So I think what I'm trying to say is I think this kind of new developments have a lot of opportunities for funding, to look for funding, and how we are going to ensure that other areas in Arvin, all their neighborhoods are going to get, part of the 617, because, as I mentioned, the project is good, but is it one of the best ways to use the funds from 617 in Arvin? And I think maybe moving forward, I believe we will need some time to digest all this information, but because everything is good, but to me it is a lot of information that I need to, digest and understand.
I completely understand where you're coming from, Gustavo. First of all, I would like to point out that this is only one project, and we are only asking for the funding of the sidewalk, curb, gutter, and street. So we're asking for roughly $2 million, $2.5 million that's going towards a project with a benefit of $30 million and potentially 60 if we get that second phase project. So what I'm looking at is a cost benefit analysis. Secondly, to answer your question, yeah, there are a lot of funds for affordable housing, in the city of Arvin, in collaboration with Dolores Huerta Foundation and Current Community College, is actively applying for grant funds. But because these are air emissions and vehicle miles traveled reductions, the grants will pay for the transformative aspects of the project, such as establishing the solar, building the affordable housing, setting up the charging stations, but it specifically excludes road building, whereas AB 617 has the money for that the steering committee has voted on. So that is why I'm asking for it, because so far every grant that we've applied to and what I'm seeing across the board with the state is they will pay for all of these great things, but they don't want to pay for the road. And funding infrastructure is very difficult to do. It's not easy to do. I know that we have a grant to pave Franklin Street, which is going to bid next. But that project, we had to apply. We applied in 2018, and it took them a really long time to fund the project, and it took even longer to move forward with it. So it's not that easy to fund infrastructure projects. And we know that we have approximately $49 million worth of projects in Arvin for roads. And we are functioning on a $7 million a year budget to run the entire city. So valid question and valid point. But when you look at the whole picture, $2 million investment for getting the benefit of a $30 to $60 million project. Ultimately, it will be closer to 60 with that second phase. There's a high benefit to cost ratio. And then with respect to all the areas in Arvin, this is only one project of potential 6 projects. And as I understand it, like Arvin and Lamont, we are sharing the project. So in terms specifically to Arvin, this would be one project of potentially 3 to 6 that we might put off. We may not come up with, 3 $2 million projects. There might be, a few that are smaller. And so we intend to use a process of fairness and look throughout the city for all areas that need to be evaluated for sidewalk, curb, and gutter. And we've already begun that process, but I really wanted to address this particular project right away because we're actively applying for funds for it and because it is ready to go. And as I understand it with the SERP, it takes a while to go through the projects to get them approved. This one is really well planned and ready to go. So I was just putting this up as our first potential project. And we all need time to digest. I've been working on this for about 8 months now. So we meet every week. We have the meetings with our groups and we're trying, and it has a lot of support from the community. So we wanted to bring this to you as a potential, can we move this project forward? And I hope that answers your question. Next question.
Can I have a follow-up question? I think I support the project. I'm not against the project, and I understand, that 617 funds can leverage other funds, but in my experience working with communities, it's very difficult to find funds for what is called not arterial streets, not main streets, and to us, these 617 funds are a good opportunity to improve those neighborhoods. I think at least what I'll request, I don't live in Arvin, but I work in Arvin for many years for the city to start developing those plans for the other projects to include those older neighborhoods, because again, there are some areas that are in need, but are more difficult to find the funds to make those improvements, especially on street sidewalks and all of that. So I think it will be great, Christine, if the city start putting together, those other plans that together with the community, what are the other areas, the other projects that can be, proposed, and I thoroughly support the idea of, sharing the funds throughout the 617 communities.
Okay, and that's next on my list, Gustavo. That's like the next thing I need to do. Try to remember there's only one grants manager, writer / implementer in Arvin, and I feel very fortunate to be here. But we've already started analyzing the streets that are listed for repair, and hopefully at the next meeting I will have that list for you and we can go over that as well. Okay, next question. I think it's Tim.
Hi, I had a question I have 2 or actually 3, so I'm going to try to put them all together so it's rapid. One of my questions regarding is these transit hubs that you want to build. Arvin City and Arvin City government has had a long reputation of not working with other transit systems coming in. what you're saying is you want to build these transit hubs to make inviting residents of Lamont to go to the college there, but at the same time, you guys are not welcome to other transit systems coming into the city because you want to promote your own transit system. And then my second question is regarding the solar incentives that you were stating for the retail areas. How are these going to be funded through public funds for the retails to put on? Because at the same time, don't these retails, if they go and finance them themselves and build them, aren't they getting an incentive from the federal government to put these solar panels on their own retail stores? And the third question is, how will all these solar panels be affected by the California Commission's office, where like they're stating that starting this year and on, the rates you get for consuming or providing electricity into their own power grid are lessened because of utility companies complaining that solar manufacturers and solar systems do not provide finances into maintaining and operating the power grid.
So you're talking about the NEM2 to M3. So Tim,
Yes.
I honestly don't have a specific answer to every one of your questions. So I'll do the best I can, and I'm happy to investigate some of the things that you were saying about Arvin Transit. So Arvin Transit has routes that go from Arvin to Lamont, Arvin to Tejon, Arvin local, and we have a paratransit system. So within the city of Arvin, as I understand it, and I will have to get more information from our transit supervisor, this is our territory, just like Golden Empire Transit has theirs. And Kern Transit does come into Arvin, and they pick up right behind Vallarta Market, and that they have pickups. Our intent is to expand Arvin Transit to provide more frequent service. I'm currently applying for a grant and we've done a needs assessment for the community to determine what additional routes would be helpful, to add routes, to provide earlier service, later service, and how we can accommodate that. So I don't have every single answer for you right now because this is in the preliminary stages. But as I understand it, Arvin Transit operates the Arvin Lamont and Arvin area. It's not that we cannot add additional services or provide additional transit at this time. It's within our jurisdiction. But if this is an issue, it certainly would be, something we could discuss. But our plan right now is to have Arvin Transit expand their routes to provide more services.
Well, one of the reasons why I asked about that transit question is because previously the Kern transit stop that is behind Vallarta was originally put in front of the city hall, and there was a dispute between Kern Transit and City Arvin and the transit of Arvin, and they had to relocate it to that location. So my question is, the same issue will come up in the future when you build these transit hubs. Will people coming from other locations to go to this campus, will these stops have to be relocated, making it them more farther from where these accessible areas are to have to walk over to these areas, or will they be also invited? Because an example of this, Arvin Transit, Kern Transit, and Golden Transit all use the downtown transit center and the BC ones, and there is no argument there. And that's just wondering, will the city of Arvin and your own transit be openly inviting other transients to come in, other transit service to come in? Because, not to kid, but Arvin is behind both GET and Current Transit, because Current Transit and GET offer mobile services. You guys don't offer mobile services.
Well, I hope we can improve that. And we currently have a survey for Arvin Transit going out for the community of Arvin and Lamont and their needs. So I have some Civic Spark fellows who've been riding the bus and asking questions and getting survey information. And that's what we're basing the increase in service. I mean, the definition of transportation hub is regional. So I would have to explore that with our transit supervisor. And I certainly wouldn't eliminate the ability of another transit agency to come into that area. But I do know right now that there is also a bus stop on Bear Mountain in front of the 7-Eleven that is also used by other transit agencies. And that's within less than a third of a mile from the proposed affordable housing. So not quite there yet with that level of planning, but we will get there.
Can I just be, for the sake of time, I want you to keep taking questions, but I'll offer from the district perspective. It sounds like a lot of folks have lots of great questions, and I appreciate hearing about it because I'm learning a lot too from you, Christine, and from the questions folks have. That we continue to take the questions that are the hands that are raised, and then I wonder if, in addition to us sending out materials and, like I said, offering to get feedback, we also kind of will outline some of the questions that came up, almost like frequently asked questions, not only about your project, Christine, but about the process and overall process. I will just let folks know, really today was just Christine's opportunity from the city's perspective to talk about a project that just felt like it was ready to go. So this isn't, I appreciate Christine answering all these questions. This is not, definitely don't feel like we're asking anyone to make a big decision based on some of the pictures that I dropped in the chat. This is just in response to folks had already highlighted this particular spot as of interest to them, and the city was already looking to try to find funding. So that's all that this is, and I just appreciate Christine. I know there's a few other questions, and then maybe just so that we get a chance to hear from the county and Caltrans, we can then kind of wrap up.
Okay. And so we're going to go with Bianca and then Maria and then Sandra. Bianca?
Can I pass my question? I have, can I, and I'll take somebody else's turn. I just have a crying baby right now.
Okay, Maria.
Sí, buenas tardes. Pues más que nada solamente quiero dar un comentario. Suena muy bien el proyecto que ella está presentando, señora Cristín. Lo único que yo quiero comentar es que aquí en la ciudad de Arvin hay muchas calles en muy mal estado. Yo tengo 16, 17 años viviendo aquí y hay muchísimas calles en muy mal estado. A mí me gustaría más que los fondos de la AB 617 se usaran para arreglar esas calles que están en muy mal estado, porque hay muchas calles que están cerca de las escuelas donde los niños pasan. Y en esta temporada que llovió bastante, esas calles se pusieron peor. Entonces yo pienso que el proyecto está muy bien, pero lo que yo veo también aquí en la ciudad de Arvin es que han construido muchas viviendas y los parques están en muy mal estado. Toda esa gente que está llegando a vivir a la ciudad de Arvin de diferentes lugares, y me cuento entre esas personas que llegué de Los Ángeles, los parques siguen casi igual que hace tantos años, siguen casi igual. Y yo veo que hacen y hacen viviendas y más viviendas, y todos esos niños que llegan a la ciudad de Arvin no tienen muchos lugares a donde ir a jugar. Veo también que no hay centros comerciales aquí en la ciudad de Arvin grandes más que La Vallarta, y que tenemos que ir hasta Bakersfield a traer nuestro mandado, porque aquí en la ciudad de Arvin nada más está esa tienda. Entonces yo pienso que nos enfocaríamos, o quisiéramos que nos enfocáramos más en lo que nos hace más falta. Yo sé, ese proyecto se ve bien, pero yo creo que para lo que hace falta aquí en la ciudad de Arvin, a mí en lo personal, hay otras prioridades que nos hacen mucho más falta aquí. Gracias.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the interpretation is still going on, or if Christine, you're ready for the next question.
I didn't get the translation.
Okay.
So I only heard Spanish. So
I'm happy to. Are we able to kind of fix the interpretation, or should I try to summarize?
Summary is great.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
you can summarize right now, Daniela, but Christine, moving forward so that this doesn't happen again, if you could please select the language under the globe sign there. If you select the English channel, then you will be able to hear the translation.
Okay, thank you.
I'll do my very best to summarize what was just said. Maria was expressing that that the project looks fine, and that also she's lived here for a really long time and has seen that the sidewalks have been in a poor condition, that she sees that there's affordable housing that continues to get built, but there's no place for those children to recreate, and so she was also saying that there's no shopping centers, so they have to go to Bakersfield to get their groceries, and so they really want to see more development in that sense. So Maria was just expressing that there are other priorities that she feels are to be kind of prioritized, but that the project looks fine as presented.
Thank you.
All right, would anyone
So
else add anything to my summary? Okay, go ahead,
So this
Christine.
is like the first opportunity we've had for economic development in a long time. So it would be the first shopping center I've seen built here, and I've been here for 6 years. So it's a start in the right direction. We also have a park grant for Kavakovich Park that should be rolling out soon to rehabilitate Kavakovich Park, but specifically to this project, directly across is Garden in the Sun Park and a planned pocket park funded by Urban Greening just to the left of the affordable housing. So hopefully we will be able to provide more programs and more opportunities for recreation. But in this specific area, we do have a Garden in the Sun Park directly across and a planned bicycle path and park area on that corner. And thank you for your support of the project, Maria. It means a lot. Okay, let's go ahead with Sandra, then Joanna, then Bianca, and then Giovanni. And then I probably think we should maybe take a break because we'll never get through this whole project. So go ahead, Sandra.
Yeah, so this is Sandra from Leadership Council. Really quick, I missed the number for how much this was going to cost and how much of the AB 617 funding was going to be spent.
Okay, so in total, the first project with the affordable housing and all of the elements that I've described, our application was just under 20 million, but we anticipate adding more amenities. So when all is said and done, the average affordable housing project with all of these really cool amenities is probably closer to between 20 and 30 million dollars. We are asking for $2 million, $2 to $2.5 million to fund the 4th Street build out. And the city's also contributing for the design of 4th Street. We're going to start that now. Thank you.
And then, oh, sorry, I had a couple other questions, but they'll be really quick. I swear. I kind of wanted to echo what Gus was saying earlier, Gustavo. I believe we should be more equitable when it comes to this funding. I know new development is great and we want everything to look really pretty, but there's existing development that needs a lot of care at the moment. And I think we should prioritize that, as Maria was saying earlier as well. And I just wanted to keep in mind as well that, we have other cities, or I guess little towns in the boundaries as well. So I just want to keep in mind that we're being equitable and we're making sure that everyone is getting the needs they deserve. Specifically, now that it's been raining a lot and we have a lot of issues with flooding, some folks don't have like drainage and mitigation and stuff like that. A lot of roads get really what's the word, like flooded and stuff like that, and just becomes such a safety hazard. So definitely there's other priorities. But I did want to mention as well, I'm really happy to see an expansion of affordable housing. It's a giant need just all over the state. So I'm really happy to see that going. But I did want to kind of put it out there that just because we build affordable housing, we need to make sure that those buildings are being looked over and that they're being up to code and everything. We see a lot of unincorporated Kern County residents having extreme habitability issues, and I would hate to see that happen here. So I really hope the city puts thought into what it's going to look like afterwards, and you guys pick good developers that are going to take care of its tenants, because we see horrible things. But yeah, just wanted to put that out there, and I'll stop talking for the sake of time. But yeah.
Thank you, Sandra. So
thank you, Sandra. Christine, I'm going to jump in right now. Okay. This is a really good presentation, and I think we're feeling the excitement from the community about all of the improvements that are happening within the boundaries of 617. I just want to remind folks and bring our attention to the fact that this presentation really is an informational presentation for the committee, for you all to hear about what the plans are independent of the work of AB 617 that are happening at the city level, and the plans that you are presenting today, they align within the boundaries, but there's no decision making being made in terms of allocation of funding today. So as Gustavo Senior mentioned earlier, there's a lot of information to process right now. And so we are not going to call for a vote for you all to vote on the allocation of resources for these sidewalk improvements or paved roads at all. This is really for you to take it in. And as Sandra and many of you have mentioned, there's a lot of other inequities that are present, and especially at the forefront of our consciousness, given all the rain that's come in through the city. And now you're seeing all the exposure to all the unfinished roads in Arvin and Lamont. So what will happen now is, in the interest of time, want to make sure that the CSC residents have a time to continue to process. Bianca, Joanna, and Giovanni, I'm wondering if you can type your questions in the chat, or if you all want to bring back this conversation after public comment. I think if Kristen has time, we can keep the conversation going. But there are two other presentations that I know you all wanted to hear about, again, in this mindset of hearing the information so that you can do or make some decisions on the information later based on what you shared in December. And if that's okay, we can move to our next presentation. And Christine, again, thank you so much for all of this. This is all great and relevant information, but just want to make sure that people are really clear that we aren't moving to a vote today, and all of your input definitely does matter. In addition to that, as you saw at the top of today's meeting, we had allocated, based on your interest, CSC members, some time to talk about CSC membership. We know how important it is. If you just for a moment take a look at the roster, flip through your Zoom, you can see the number of residents that are on here, the number of government officials, the number of other agencies that are here. We have a lot of interest, and a lot of dollars are coming into the community. Could there be an opportunity to renew membership? We want to talk about that too, but this is your meeting. So, want to make sure that we're being mindful and you get the information that you need. And if we need to move things to our next meeting, that's totally okay. So at this point, is it okay? Is anybody opposed to moving to the next presentation right now? And we can continue this discussion after public comment, or even at the next meeting. Anyone opposed to that?
I have a question for Christine. Is she going to be available for public comment so we could give our comment?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Christine, is that okay with you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. Yeah, so we'll continue. We're just going to kind of move this conversation to public comment because there's a lot of great interest, and especially because we're not going to vote on it today with AB 617. Okay, well, great. So let's go ahead and transition, Daniela, to our next presenter.
Okay, wonderful. I'll turn the floor to Jessica. I know she was going to introduce them. Thank you.
Yes, and just a quicker, faster reminder is we heard from Arvin, but as we've all been reminded during this discussion, that is only one piece of the entire boundary. The rest of the boundary, it being many little communities, Weed Patch, Fuller Acres, Lamont, and the areas in between are all, much of that area is Kern County. And so we also have Kern County, who was at our meeting and who is here today. And I think knows to maybe just Yolanda, sort of a quick recap of what you've heard, what the county has available, and maybe just now that we've heard the feedback from Arvin, how you would all maybe respond to similar questions about equity and working in different parts of the community.
Hi, Jessica. I'm ready to share the screen. Is that okay? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Let me get this presentation up. All right, are you seeing the presentation?
Good.
Okay, good. So my name is Yolanda Alcantar. I head the Advanced Planning Division in the Engineering Department of Kern County Public Works. And my division applies for grant funds to construct infrastructure improvements throughout Kern County. And thank you for the invitation to speak tonight about potential sidewalk projects that may be realized through AB 617 funding available in the Lamont and Arvin areas. And if you excuse me for a moment, I'll just translate my intros in Spanish, just to let the residents know that I also speak Spanish. So, buenas noches, mi nombre es Yolanda Alcantar y dirijo la División de Planificación en el Departamento de Ingeniería. En mi trabajo es buscar fondos para mejorar áreas que tienen caminos inseguros, falta banquetas o drenaje. Aunque esta presentación es en inglés, si hablo español, no muy bien, pero aquí estoy para servirles. Y no dude a llamarme para hablar sobre las necesidades de su comunidad.
Thank you, Yolanda. Welcome to the meeting. And just so you are aware, Yolanda, we do have simultaneous translation happening. So
right,
as you're talking,
sorry.
yeah, no worries. But next time, if you want to talk in Spanish, if you can go into the Spanish channel.
Oh, I see.
So that the English folks can hear it. But thank you so much for making the effort to introduce yourself in Spanish. I know we all appreciate it.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. And so at the December 6th meeting there at the David Head Center, I presented 3 maps for community engagement. The first, and the idea was for us to hear from the community and community members where improvements should be prioritized. You know, after all, it's the residents that know best where the daily challenges are in your neighborhood, and we encourage your input to ensure that we program meaningful projects that will solve existing problems. And that was accomplished through the use of yellow round stickers placed along areas that the community felt improvements were needed. And so the maps we used that day was this first one here, which showed the full boundary of AB 617. And then we zoomed in to show the Lamont area. And then we had a third map for the Fuller Acres Mountain View area. And these maps, some of them had colors in here, like this red, meaning that there was right-of-way issues, and we didn't recommend that that particular project be selected because it has.
Just zoom that a little bit because I can't really see it.
These, I'm going to be focusing on these maps again later. This is just a brief overview. And so some of, okay, so. Okay, so some of the considering factors before we decided to put up some of these maps was right-of-way, sumps, and curb and gutter, because these are the minimum requirements that are required for sidewalks. So not all locations are construction ready, especially for homes that were built before 1970 when there were no development standards. So owners could decide if they wanted to spend the extra money to pave their street or to put in sidewalks or streetlights. That's for their specific benefit, but now development standards, they require this as a public benefit, and it's a requirement for new housing tracts. And this is accomplished through public easements, which is what we consider right-of-way. And so public easements are required on every road to authorize it for public use. Otherwise, it's considered a private road. And so most roads require 60 feet in order to construct a sidewalk. And so first we have to look at, is there a public easement and do we have enough? And some of the locations there in Lamont only have 40 feet, not 60. And then we have to look, here's a housing tract here in Lamont. And in this particular case, here is the sump. So we have to see, is there a sump? And does it have capacity to hold the water that we need for that area? And then, of course, we need curbs and gutters and storm drain lines to get it to the sump. So it's a whole system that's required when we're looking at where we should put sidewalk projects. And so the most common comments or suggestions that we had from the December 6th meeting were requests for crosswalks, rectangular rapid flashing beacons, sidewalks, drainage, and road resurface and road repavement requests. And so here is the interactive map. And then, so we got a copy of the interactive map to see where all the dots were put. And then along with each program area, there were these sticky notes where people had also made comments. And so we did, for all three areas, there were all these dots and sticky notes. And we took all of those areas together to try to figure out what we should try to focus on for these areas. And so the goal of the exercise was to focus limited resources where the greatest benefit for the most people is. And so the amount of improvements needed in the county is going to always exceed the amount of funding available. So we're doing our best to focus on the highest community identified priorities. And that was identified through the committee. And so we'll dive into the results from the interactive maps one by one to see where the AB 617 funds should be focused on according to the December 6th meeting results. So one thing to note is that the yellow stickers represented locations for sidewalk, and the green stickers were areas for vegetative barriers. And so this is kind of a quick summary of what we saw for the Lamont area, for Fuller Acres, and for the outlying areas. And then I'm going to discuss each one in detail right now, but this is kind of a general summary. There was over 200 dots that we went through to try to prioritize in these different areas. There was like 11 post-it notes that had comments that we tried to incorporate. Those locations that were in the Caltrans right away or in the city of Arvin limits were not counted because we just don't have jurisdiction to do projects in those areas. And then some areas, although we had outlined it in red, they still came, there were still support for those projects. But for this effort, and because we have a 2-year timeline and they have right-of-way issues, these are not being considered, let's say not eligible due to right-of-way. They're not being considered for AB 617 just because of the time constraints. And so I put those notes here again to reiterate that. So
Yolanda, this is Amy. Just want to remind folks, just for clarity's sake, in case they were not at the December meeting, when you say the dots that folks added, that's the dots that this committee put on the map when they attended in person at the December meeting. You analyze those data and those are the results you're talking about, right?
Yes, that was the task that I was given, to do an analysis of those dots and to try to figure out what projects we might prioritize based off the committee's placement of dots, because we kind of consider that their prioritization. And so that is what this presentation is about.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that reminder.
So again, going back to the Lamont area, this was the original map we presented. And here were all the dots that we ended up with that at the end of the night. And so going through all of these dots, this is the final summary table that we came up with, that this area here north of Panama Road had the most dots. It had 7 yellow stickers in support of sidewalk. And then the second project was this south of Panama Road had 4, these 4 areas in support for sidewalk. And then there's some scattered dots, that we see here, and not really in areas that we could, like this one is, we have no right of way here, and there was, I mean, we can look at these areas in the future, but they didn't seem to have the support that these other two did. So for the Lamont area, at that point in time, for the people that attended, these are the two priorities that we see based off these maps. And so those are two potential projects. And then if we go on to the next map for Fuller Acres, Fuller Acres, I know has a lot of people who support and want to do improvements here, but it's just not ready for this funding timeline. And so we marked those as red. And so the dots that you see here, we had 4 of them. We didn't count this one because it seemed like it was on the state highway because it's further down, but it could possibly have been supporting Mountain View. And there's a school here, so I can see why this was supported. And so that's for the Fuller Acres Mountain View area, this is what we considered being community supported and a priority on this map. And then the final map that we looked at was the overall map, because we took Lamont right here, we took that out, and Fuller Acres is up here, but we there's other pockets of county areas that we wanted to make sure we were inclusive of everything. And so we have a lot of dots in this area here, but if you look at it, this area has a lot of dots, but if you look at it on the aerial, it's all ag land. So what we're thinking is that this was really in support of Comanche, because Comanche does need sidewalks. So that's open to interpretation. If we think this really is a support for Comanches here, and there's an unincorporated pocket right here, that there was 14 stickers, and that was the most actually out of all of the effort. And so that project, and then Buena Vista had 10 stickers, and that is a 5-mile stretch from State Route 184 to Comanche. And so those are the two areas that we saw based off those maps. So here is a list of the results with who had the most votes. Comanche Drive had 14 of the yellow stickers. Buena Vista had 10. This is Lana Street. These are north of Panama Road had 7, and then south of Panama Road had 4, and Mountain View Road had 4. So here is a map and an estimate of what these projects would cost. So Comanche Drive or South Comanche, it's just under 1 mile, and it would have a price tag of 1.5 million. And these are general estimates. They haven't been engineered, but just based off their distance. And then another potential project, and this was a high scoring one from Buena Vista, that's 5 miles of bike lane. I mean, there was comments about sidewalk, but it doesn't make sense to put sidewalk on a rural road like this, and there's no homes there. So I'm making an assumption that this was a request for a bike lane. And this cost here is for a bike lane, and it covers 5 miles. And then, so the two projects in Lamont, this was north of Panama Road, we're estimating at 1.5 million, and then south of Panama Road, it only includes these 4 roads in red, because this was from the original map, and I forgot to have my staff drop these other ones, because these are the only ones that had dots on it. So if there was an additional amount, we could pick up some of these other ones in green. And then the final project was Mountain View Road, just south of Mountain View Middle School. And that's about a 1/2 mile or so. 1.2 million is what we're going to estimate for that. And so in some, Buena Vista, oh, this is a wrong number. We updated it to 5 point something, but Buena Vista Road would take up pretty much the full amount of the AB 617 funds, or you could spread it among about 4 projects, all about 1.5 to 2 million. So these are just the options we've presented based off that scoping event. But really, of course, it's going to be up to the committee and where you want to put your support. But that's what we summarized based off the needs that the community prioritized that day. And that's my presentation.
Thank you so much, Yolanda. That was really helpful and clearly to see where community residents express their priorities. So we can start the Q&A session, and we'll ask CSC members to please raise their hand if they have any comments, feedback, or questions for Yolanda. And we can start with Bianca.
Hi, Bianca.
Hi, I do have a question in regards to the Comanche one. There's been feedback back and forth saying that part of it is partially from the city of Arvin and partially from the county. In that circumstances, if the county does decide to take it in place, would it be also in charge on the right side of Comanche? Because that's where the controversial comments that I've heard in the past. And I do support a lot of the Lamont ones because I've seen the work that you've done with the community, and how some of the residents have been continuously pushing for their efforts to flourish. And now that we have the funding, we could see some projects now finally in place. So I appreciate that, and that is my comment and my question.
Yeah, you're right about Comanche. There has been some question as to who the owner is. And I think previously it was a county facility, but at some point in time, the city wanted to take it over. If it's our facility, we're happy to move a project forward. And the last time I checked, it was supposed to be our facility. But well, we can figure that out at a later date, but right now that's what was showing up as a priority. So and we did do a shoulder project on that a couple of years. That's why I'm thinking we're willing to get that project done, because we just spent federal funds on that like last year, I think. And so we're only proposing sidewalk on the one side, the east side, because it's all ag on the other side. And so, all right, thank you for your comment.
Thank you. We have Sandra next.
Hi, Sandra.
Hi, I had a quick clarifying question. When you mentioned that because of the right-of-way issues in the Fuller Acres Hilltop area, it wouldn't meet the two-year limit time constraint. Does that mean that there could possibly be sidewalks moving forward in that area?
No, the problem is in Fuller Acres specifically, there's only 40 feet of right-of-way. And so that there's not enough room to put in a sidewalk. I have been looking at Fuller Acres because I know that's, I'm trying to see here if I can find the right. It's, sorry. So I want to go to this right away. So we need 60 feet of right of way, and there's only 40 feet in Fuller Acres. So that means we'd have to take the parking away, and the residents already have very small lots. And so they usually don't support removing parking for us to put a sidewalk. I'm thinking really the only way we could get sidewalks in there is that we have to buy a house and punch a road through, make it a one-way. And so that's just something that's going to take a lot of time and money. Because on top of that, there's no drainage facilities in Fuller Acres. So you've got to buy a sump, you've got to buy a piece of property, develop a sump to put in storm drain. And I think I already put a price tag on that of about $8 million. So it can be done with time and money, but not with this effort here, because that is probably, let's see, Rexland Acres came with a sump, and it took us 5 years to get from the beginning to construction. And that project is going to take a lot more work. So it's probably an 8 to 10 year project. And so we've only got a 2-year timeline here with the air district funds. So.
Okay, and then sorry, thank you so much. Just for clarification, then none of the proposed projects from the county are directly in the Hilltop Fuller Acres area at this time?
No, the Fuller Acres and Mountain View, the only project being recommended off that map was for Mountain View. So nothing else.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. We can go with Cesar. Cesar.
Hello, thank you. Could you go back to the slide that has the division of the breakdown for Buena Vista versus the 4 other roads?
Easier if I do this. Okay, so the final one that showed.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, here we go. This one here. Okay.
Thank you.
We're estimating about $6 million. So Buena Vista would pretty much take up the whole budget, or we could spread it out among a few projects. And then of course, that's up to you guys. We can do one project, that's fine. But that'll be something for everybody to consider at a future date, because we're not making any decisions today. I'm just letting you know the options that we see based off of that meeting.
Okay, thank you. I think that answers a question I had of whether or not this was something that was, available to be modified and used, like based on priority for foot traffic. It is awesome. Thank you so much for that. And I have just another question, maybe to Carb on understanding that funds are a limiting factor here. Could we use some of the 617 funds to contract grant writers to support, especially the lower income areas, so that, I think a lot of times the difference between why more developed areas get funding and like less income areas don't is just because they have more money to pay better grant writers. And if we can get some grant writers to like multiply the amount of money that comes in through 617, I think that it would be a good way to help amplify the pot of money that we have for 617.
That's an interesting concept, and I'm sorry I don't have an answer to that, but I can look into it for sure. If you'd add that to the action item, that'd be great. Maybe Jess, you might have some more information. I see.
Yeah, no, that is for incentives dollars. We haven't seen that yet so far, but I agree with Michelle. That's a really interesting question, Cesar. I will say right now it would take from, like, we are not adding funding to the SERP, so it would take from the 12 million total. And your point being is like how flexible is that 12 million? So or any funding for any measure at that point, right? To include money for that. So yeah, I will have Carb get back to us on that.
Okay, who's the next question? Is it Jesus?
Hey. Yes, Jesus.
Hi, good afternoon. I just wanted to check, follow up on the Hilltop area. I think one of the projects that I understood from the December meeting was our community members were asking for a bus stop along the Weepatch Highway. That's where a lot of the elementary students, the high school students get picked up. During rainy days, there's this huge puddle of mud that kids have to stand in order to wait for the bus or to get off the bus. And sometimes the bus has to stop in the middle of the freeway in order for the kids to get off. I wanted to know, and I apologize if I missed this, if that was looked into, the placement of a bus stop there.
Is that on State Route 184?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't think the county looked into it because we don't have jurisdiction there. Although, is this for regional bus service? Is it for school bus service only? Both, maybe?
I think it's all of the above. I'm not sure about the regional part, but for sure the high school students in elementary.
Yolanda, this is Paul with Caltras. You want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a project that's probably going to construction about a year. We look at some additional bus stops there. We work with the transit agency and the county to locate those. So I'm not sure if the location you're adding is in one of those locations where we looked at additional bus stops or bus shelters. You could just email somebody, they could send me the email and I could find out if a particular, if the area you're looking for is one of those that we had looked at as putting in a bus shelter.
Hi, and this is Lorena Mendibas, also with Caltrans. I'm here with also Paul Pineda. If you have any pictures of the location, or if I don't know if there's still water out there in that area, if you can just send it to us, that would be very helpful as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
you. Gustavo?
Yeah, I think one comment I have about the Comanche, I believe based on conversations, because the CRP and Committee for Better Arvin have been advocating to improve that street for many years. And we believe part of the conversations with the supervisors was that, who owns the street. Looks like it was half and half. And I think the side that needs is in need of sidewalks, I believe, is the side of the city of Arvin, which I think if it's decided that to put some sidewalks there, maybe not all the way, because it's I think some of the housing is there is no space for sidewalks. There are some areas that are wide enough, some other areas that either the city or the county will have to buy part of the property of some houses there to be able to put sidewalks, but that may be something maybe between the county and the city to figure out, if, what are the areas that is possible to propose that as a project. And again, both the county and the city, I think is within the boundaries of the 617. So I think that may be something to keep analyzing and see what may be possible there. So that's one. The other one, I think, if not sure, but how can Caltrans and the county and maybe the city of Arvin, but looks like most the county and Caltrans, our experience is that it's very difficult to get both agencies to work together. So I don't know how to make some of those projects possible when it's on Caltrans's jurisdiction. So like for what Jesus mentioned, if possible, it may be Caltrans jurisdiction. I'm not sure, but if it's 184, most likely it will be Caltrans. So just those comments, to maybe, I don't know, maybe Yolanda and Caltrans can have those conversations and educate us, and who have jurisdiction, is both, is one of you. Just those comments. And I know that we are not making decisions today, but I think I'm inclined to support the proposed neighborhoods that may be, recommended as projects for sidewalks. I think my previous comments when Christine was presenting is those some neighborhoods that is not easy to find funds for those non-arterial streets, and I think some of the streets that were identified presented by Yolanda are those kind of neighborhoods. So I think it's that's exactly what I was thinking when in my first comment with Christine. Those neighborhoods that 617 may have some funds, but it will be difficult to get funds to improve those streets otherwise. So I just want to make those comments. And just another comment, not to discourage folks that are advocating for fuller acres, but with Yolanda, we have been trying for, I don't know, 5 or more years, maybe, trying to get the right of way on Hall Road to put sidewalks, and it's been a struggle. One of two owners in that street are not being willing to support the project, and Yolanda is being willing to look for the funds, but not having the right of way, that's preventing us from moving forward. So maybe folks can try to start that process in Fuller Acres and have it ready for funding, because it's just an example. That I understand Yolanda's point that not having the right of way will take some time to have those streets ready for funding. Thank you.
For Fuller Acres, let me say, I know we have a sewer project underway, and so hopefully during that process, they'll be able to fix some of the right-of-way issues out there. But that project is funded and expected to be built in the next 3 to 4 years. And so after that project is done, it'll make it a lot easier for us to come in with road improvements if they can get it all worked out as part of the sewer project.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just one more comment for folks. And another reason that I'm inclined to support what Yolanda presented is because we are also a committee for Comité Progreso de Lamont and CRP. I've been working with the county, with Yolanda, in looking, I think, funds already secure in other streets like the Giorgio and other streets throughout Lamont. So I think it makes sense if the county already have funds for some of the streets that we may see, starting of the construction of those projects. And now with this other project, I think to me makes sense because the county already have some funds, and these new projects may be done with 617 funding.
Okay, thank you. So I don't know if Caltrans wants to comment about State Route 84 items. Well, maybe we'll just wait to your presentation because I'm sure you're going to cover that. Shall we wait?
Yeah, no, we can. And just to let everybody know, our jurisdiction is all the state routes, and that would be it. But Paul has a presentation. I don't know if we need to go next, or is there still more questions for Yolanda?
There's one
more question.
Okay. Hi, Tim.
Hi. So I just had one simple comment and then a question regarding the bus stop on 184. It is the school one and the transit are the same one. So basically, the proposal where you guys talk to transit, if you do build a bus stop, the school stop uses it the same. To answer to Jesus' question, they share the same location where they stop to pick up kids, and current transit stops there to pick up pedestrians. My comment to Yolanda was the Mount View Road. Isn't the south part of Mount View where Caltrans is looking to add basically a storm ditch to collect storm water so 184 won't get flooded? That south part below Mount View?
Yes. I'm not sure. I'm not aware of that, but I'll definitely need to collaborate with them if that's the case. Yeah.
I can answer that.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, we are part of our current project that's ongoing, that we are currently in the design phases. I think we bought the property already. I don't know where it is in the acquisition part, but we are going to put a sump at the southeast quadrant of Mountain View and 184. I think there's a school there on the north side, right?
Yes.
So we are going to put a sump there on the south side of that, across the street. I think the property is already in the process of being bought, or if it has been bought already. I'm not sure where the process, where is that on the current process.
Okay, so that's a good thing, Tim. Then we can use their sump for your drainage. No. All right.
Okay, that answers my question. So I'm just waiting for the Caltrans presentation.
All right. Well, thank you. Is that everything?
That's everything. Thank you very much, Yolanda.
All right, no problem.
Thank you everyone for all of those questions. We are just doing a quick time check. We have only around 10 minutes left in this meeting. So I'm gonna turn it over to Jessica. We are proposing to just table the item of the CSC membership and then just have, I'll turn it over to Jessica to propose some of what we can adapt to ensure that we still cover the material either at some level today and then the next meeting.
So maybe I'll just, so we do have Caltrans here who also has, it's a little bit of a different take because as Lorena mentioned, they cover state routes only, but there were some comments about state routes and there's also a great update on what's happening. I know there'll be more questions than we'll have time for. And so I don't know if there's a short verbal update. And then, like I said, either way, we will send out all these materials for folks to digest. Lorena, if that makes sense, because there is, even though we will postpone the membership update, there is one critical piece I do want to talk about tonight with co-leadership that I know you all are interested in. So Lorena, is that something that's okay with you or other folks on the committee to maybe have Caltrans present at a different meeting in more depth?
I would have to talk to Paul and have to revisit you guys again. That wouldn't be a problem, right, Paul? I guess we can.
Yeah, it'll be fine. We're fine.
Yeah.
So maybe just knowing that there were at least a couple of people that had questions related to you, can maybe we answer some of those questions? I see Gustavo's hand, but I also know Tim had a question that he said was related to Caltrans. So I don't know if Tim wants to kind of repeat your question that was more directed at Caltrans.
Okay, my question regarding Cal 184 is, I know you are in that sump right there in Mount View. What about the north part of 84 where basically the road dips down because the elevation of the county moves downward that part? And that's basically past Fuller Acres. It would be, I think at the meeting I marked it on the board on the map for you. It would be 184 and Mueller, where it starts slumping down, and that's where typically when we get heavy rain, it's the flooding starts and it builds up, and it prevents us basically from coming from south to north on the 184.
You know what? I think I'll have to bring the design, the project engineer here because it's a very specific question. Our project is 8 miles long. It runs from the railroad track at the south end to the railroad track at north of 58. So that's how long our project is. That's it's just
yeah. And then can you share? Maybe you can send that our map to to everyone that's participating today, just to let them know. We had it at the event in December, but if you can show that, just to show them where the improvements are going to be happening on 184 and 223, that's okay.
Yes, we will do that. And then maybe Gustavo's comment before we transition to membership.
Yeah, actually my comment was around membership. If we're not going to have time for that, I heard from other residents that I think part of the conversation will be, that we may lose already some CSC members. And I was thinking, if we're not going to have a good conversation this evening, if maybe you can send us, and I'm sorry if you sent it and I didn't review it, but a list of current members. And I think for us, it will be good to start thinking, if we are missing several members, maybe start thinking, who can we invite to join, the CSC, like we can start sooner than, we don't have to wait a month to do that. Maybe if you can send a list of current members will help us start thinking and how can we support, bringing back the number of CSC members that we ideally want to have.
Yes, so maybe if it's okay with you all, and I know it might be hard, if you don't mind, I will present just so that I can give you the information verbally. That exactly what you just said, Gustavo. We'll send this out with our updated packet based on the feedback we heard today. And then in the meantime, to your point, we won't wait for the next meeting to make to have some discussions with you all. We'll have opportunities to hear feedback. I'm going to very briefly go through this, and I'm even going to maybe skip a slide or two. Are you seeing, oops, sorry. Were you seeing my presentation and then I just unshared? Here we go.
Yes.
Okay. Really briefly, and I'm just going to verbalize this. I'm not going to read each slide, but as we discussed, and Gustavo is 100% right, we had a reconfirmation process and we followed up with a lot of folks. You'll get all of this information when we send it out to you. I did just drop it in the chat if you want to follow along. And to Bianca's point, we'll also email this out to you. We did have folks, 11 people not renew. So to your point, Gustavo, there are a lot of folks, 11 out of the 70 or so that we had. So we actually outlined for you exactly what those folks looked like. So 7 of them were residents, 3 were business, and 1 was a school official. And they had just various reasons. They just haven't attended in a while. If any of those residents, by the way, that haven't attended and still live in the area, we'd love to have them back. I'm sure you all would too. But we just didn't see them at all in the entire year of 2022, and we're unable to reach out to them either directly or even calling some of you to help us reach out to them. So they're no longer, as of right now, on the committee. Again, if they want to come back, we'd happily invite them back. And then we had a couple folks ask to be removed. So to Gustavo's point, we still have a majority residents. So 72% of our total is residents, meaning more than half of the committee. And you'll go ahead and have a chance when we send this to kind of digest this a little further. So I agree with Gustavo. We'll leave you with these parting thoughts that we can address at our next meeting or even in between, which is exactly what Gustavo just asked. Should we recruit to open new spots? Are there folks, when we recruit, folks are going to be new. So we'll have to like onboard them, which means like orient them or teach them everything you have all done over the past 2 years. There's a lot to learn. And so we don't want them to come in without having some background. And so we were going to ask if any of you were interested with helping with that. And then the last thing, we will address this in a meeting because it feels awkward to not, it feels like it deserves a discussion, but I'll just leave you with, we have heard from folks already interest in revisiting co-leads because we did lose one of our co-leads. So I'll let you know that because we've heard that already, we are going to follow up in an email and with phone calls. But if you or someone in the community is interested in stepping up to the co-lead position, let us know, and we'll start that process and come to our next meeting with it to be a CSC decision, because that's how the co-lead process worked the last time. So everything that I just posted here, we will follow up with you all and even ask folks kind of their opinion about recruiting. We'll ask folks for your assistance in helping with recruitment and with onboarding. And we'll also ask you if you or someone on the committee wants to be nominated to help with the co-leads process. We'll make that an agenda item for next meeting and go over the next steps there. I'm going to stop sharing because we are short on time, but hopefully verbalizing that and then sending it out to you to think about will help a little bit in that thought process.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And we wanted to propose if we could do the standing updates regarding the subcommittees, all updates via email. Okay, so you will all receive an email with what was supposed to be shared under agenda item standing updates. So just be sure to look out for that. And then we will also ask that to include the action item tracker and make an ask that people review it. And if they have edits that they can kind of communicate those just so that we don't go through that either since we are coming close to the end. So with that, I just want to make sure that we do have a chance to, if you have questions, please type them in the chat regarding anything that Jessica shared. But definitely just want to make you aware of when the next meeting is. So I'm just going to share my screen briefly. So we have our next meeting taking place via Zoom, February 22nd at 5 p.m. And we want to invite any CSC member that would like to join the agenda setting meeting February 2nd from 4 to 5. And just a reminder to the CSC members that the agenda setting meeting is an opportunity for any resident. It's voluntary. It's not part of the stipend program, but certainly welcome any CSC members to talk about upcoming items that they want to see in the agenda, as well as to give feedback to your facilitators or the agencies about how the facilitation is going, how the STRP's going, and just be able to kind of share your feedback openly in that space as well. So just want to invite you to those 2 meetings. And let me see, with that, we are able to go to open up a brief public comment just to see if there's anyone in the public that wanted to make some address this committee. Bianca, we can start with you.
I have an outstanding comment that I have for Christine. Hearing her presentation about allocating some money that could potentially, it's a word, it's a big word, potentially could bring benefits to the community, but seeing like how the county presented the disadvantaged areas that have happened and residents have presented, I really don't think it would be a good idea to allocate $2 million to something that it's a potential. It's not a for sure deal, and it's a long process. It's not going to happen. Let's just say overnight. When we talk about city items, it's a long ways. Even to have the Ponds Park, it was more than 10 years to bring it to the community. So I wanted to bring that in light, that residents should consider that there's other roads that are really, really in bad condition. And the city, just what they do, they just patch it and let it go. And those patches don't last long. 2 or 3 months, it's back again. And I think those are the infrastructure that we need in the community. And I wanted to just bring it into light because I had it in my notes and I don't want to forget it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca. Are there any other comments from the public or from anyone in the committee? Okay. Seeing none, I want to share a few remarks and then we'll turn it over to Jessica, and honestly, Bianca, back to you in case you have any closing remarks. But it is 7:02, so just asking for a minute or two just to wrap us up. And it feels a little bit I don't want to take too much time, but I do have some news to share. And just want to start by saying that it's been a huge privilege to facilitate in the Arvin Lamont community as your facilitator that has been able to see the great progress that you all have made. It's hard to share that I will be transitioning from my role at Harder & Company, but I think some of you might be excited to learn that when I'm not working at Harder & Company, I'm also working on environmental justice work. I'm working on social justice work in my community, and I will be transitioning from my position as a research consultant to join as an executive organizer for the Imperial Valley Equity and Justice Coalition. So I do hope that you see that you've gained a partner in the community and a lifelong honorary just like partner and real partner, and hope to see you in the AB 617 space. I hope to join AB 617 and be involved in the Imperial County corridor. So just want to express so much gratitude to everyone here for really this honor of working in partnership with you know, such a special place of our state. It's my first time working with communities in the Central Valley, and it was so special. And you stay with a wonderful team at Harder & Company, and just, yeah, thank you. I don't want to take more time. Obviously this is pretty hard for me to transition, but I know we'll be seeing each other in the spaces of AB 617 and environmental justice. So thank you for this huge privilege. And I'm always accessible. I can also share my information of our coalition in case you want to stay in touch. But just thank you again. And I don't know if anyone else would want to share anything from the Harder team, but otherwise I can turn it over to Jessica to begin to close us off. But sending so much love to you all, and I know that I will be keeping track on seeing how the community goes through this process alongside you. So thank you again.
Thank you, Daniela. I know from all of the reactions and the hearts that were just shared that folks are not only just grateful for the leadership and support, I think also just honest facilitation and a lot of just a great direction I think you've provided us over this time. And I know the team here at the district is going to miss you a lot. And I'm just so impressed by the undertaking. And I know a lot of folks here have been involved in the EJ world for maybe their whole lives. And I know you have had that in your heart for a really long time. And I just can't wait to see what you do. And I know you're going to still touch 617 kind of across the state and in your work in Imperial. And we'll all hear great things from you. So we're just so grateful for you. And I also just want to thank everyone that participated. Today's meeting, I learned a lot about kind of the needs and the continual support and interest in evaluating all of your priorities. I just want to thank Christine and Yolanda, their teams that helped them, put this work together. And then also Caltrans, who I know would have had an amazing presentation, and promise all of you will follow up and continue this conversation and have opportunities to further prioritize and give feedback to both the city and the county and to Caltrans about how to support all of this and all of these efforts. So just thank you. And I'll pass it to Bianca to see if there's any other closing remarks.
I wanted to thank Daniela for all her amazing work she's done through the facilitating. I think without having Harder Company and yourself as a facilitator, I think this would have been a chaos. It's a larger group. I think it's a very big group, and having facilitators that are willing to listen to community input is important. And I appreciate every single one of you from the Harder Company, especially Daniela, for trying to calm the whole situation, and I'm very excited that I'll get to see you through the Imperial area, but I know that they're gonna receive an amazing person coming with a good heart. So I appreciate it, and I'm very jealous about it, but I'm happy that you're going to do something great. Thank you.
Thank you. It seriously cannot express how important it is to feel the strength of everyone's encouragement. And I'm always here for anything. If you all need to reach out to me, like, I'm a partner with you on air quality of our state. So please do reach out, and just wishing everyone so much health, wishing this community so much life thriving, and just hopefully also to have you all see your community transform in the ways that you want to see it. So from the bottom of my heart, I just thank you for this opportunity and just wish you the very best. Hi everyone. I think we can close out the meeting. I'll be here. But just thank you for joining tonight again, right? Just your commitment is inspiring. And so thank you to our speakers, thank you to our interpreters, thank you to all the agencies that helped make this happen, and for sure all the great questions that came into the space today. Take good care. I will miss every single person here. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you, everyone.